metro system of Medellín. The whole system is very clean, modern, and very efficient. Welcome back everyone to Medellín, Colombia, sort of. I'm actually filming this part from not in Medellín, Colombia, filming it from the next city that we visited, which I'm not going to tell you about, but today we're going to talk about the crown jewel of Medellín, as some would see it. I definitely think it's one of Medellín's most important, most notable, and most interesting features, and that is the metro system of Medellín. So, come along. Thanks for clicking on the video. If you want to help out the channel and help it grow, I really would appreciate it. Click on the like button down there, the subscribe button, and the little bell next to it to be notified for when new videos drop. It really helps the channel grow because it's going to help the YouTube algorithm recognize this content and spread it to other YouTube viewers. If you'd like to support the channel monetarily, I would appreciate that as well. You can leave a super thanks by clicking this thanks button here and give a small donation to the channel. I appreciate your support. So back to the video, enjoy. So in a previous video that we made on this channel, well, a couple of previous videos actually, we talked about the bus rapid transit system, the public transportation in Bogota, the capital city of Colombia. And in a previous video, previous to that, actually, when we were in Lima, Peru, we talked about the kind of chaotic and in transition public transit system that they're trying to build there in Lima. Now, in Medellín, they actually have a very, very good public transportation system. The metro that they have, along with a complementary bus rapid transit system and a series of cable cars to access the parts of the city that are up on the sides of the mountains. It's a very complex, but also very straightforward system that functions really, really well. The whole system is very clean, modern, and very efficient for getting people around not just the city of Medellín, but the neighboring cities all in the valley, the Aburrá Valley, where Medellín is located. Now, what's interesting about this system is it is the only rail-based metro system in any city in Colombia. Even the capital of Bogota, which has a much larger population than Medellín, has a bus rapid transit system. They're building a metro system there, and it's scheduled to be finished, the first line at least, within the next couple of years. But they have a bus rapid transit system that covers a much larger geographically and much larger population city in Bogota than Medellín. Rail systems are actually not new to Medellín. In fact, there used to be a large railway connecting the different centers, metro and city centers of Colombia, including Bogota, Medellín, and Cali. And in Antioquia, the state where Medellín is located, there used to be an Antioquia railway. It no longer operates, and you can see sort of the remnants of it with towns that had sprung up along the railway that still exists today. And Medellín used to have a tramway system as sort of a precursor to the current metro system. But the current metro system is nothing like a tram system. The current metro system is an entirely above ground metro with one large trunk line, a secondary line that splits off perpendicular to the trunk line, and several bus rapid transit lines, as well as cable car lines that go up into the hills to access parts of the city that were previously relatively cut off from the rest of the urban center. In the 1960s, Medellín and the entire area within the Aburrá Valley was growing rapidly with rapid economic and industrial growth. And that's not just the city of Medellín, but also neighboring cities like Bello in the north and Sabaneta in the south, which are now all connected by that main trunk line. One of the very interesting things about the Medellín Metro is it connects a lot of cities outside of Medellín, and it makes them feel like, to an outsider like me, a foreigner, more like neighborhoods all within the same large city when they're actually their own cities that are separate and developed separately from Medellin. In addition, those cable car routes that run up into the hills have been able to connect areas of the city that were really separate and developed very separately from Medellin because of the disconnect and the difficulty of reaching those communities. But now, with specific cable car routes and also the metro, which is, like I mentioned, very modern and very fast way to travel around, trips that used to take from like the very northern suburbs of the city up in Bello down to the southern part in Sabaneta, those trips used to take hours, 2 or 3 hours by bus or by car because of the traffic and the poor road infrastructure in the past. But now with the metro, you can literally get from the southern end of the line and go 20 or 25 stops all the way up to the northern end of the main trunk line in like 45 minutes. It's a very, very fast, very convenient way to travel throughout the city. The line first went into operation back in 1995. And I find it interesting that Medellin was the first city in Colombia to receive a full metro. And they were actually able to get it built from the time that it was approved by the national government to the time that it opened in 1995 in just over a decade, which for the amount of undertaking that needed to happen with all of these very impressive above ground stations and an entire above ground train line that runs for 20 or 25 stops, the amount of work that was done and that was completed in a very relatively short amount of time, just over a decade, from planning stage all the way up to opening, is pretty impressive. I'm not going to lie. As I've said, we did our video in Bogota about the bus rapid transit system there, and our video in Lima about the public transportation that they're doing there. Now in Lima, they've been trying to build a metro in Lima for almost 50 years now at this point, since the 1970s. And they have one line completed out of a proposed, 5 or 6 lines, I think, to cover the entire city. In a city like Lima, the geographic size and shape of the city, one metro line is not sufficient, and they supplement it with bus rapid transit and other forms of transportation. Now, interestingly, we also visited the city of Quito, the capital city of Ecuador. Now, Quito has a similar population size to Medellin. The metro area is around 3 million people. And Quito also, like Medellin, is a long, narrow city that runs through a narrow mountain valley. And I think the similarities between Quito with their one singular metro line and Medellin with one main metro line with a smaller line that runs off for only a few stops. They have a very similar design, and they benefit from the geography of the cities in that one major north-south running line can cover a good part of the city because the city is so long and narrow. Now, when we visited Quito, that metro had just opened. In fact, it had opened like less than a year before we showed up there. The trains and the stations even smelled new. It was pretty amazing. Now, in Medellin, the line or the initial line of the subway, of the metro system, has been open for a few decades now. In fact, almost 3 decades. And they've been adding additional cable car lines, bus rapid transit options, and the additional line 2 that runs perpendicular out east-west from the main line in the central part of the city. So even though it's been open for nearly 30 years now at this point, it still feels very, very modern. They run a very clean system. The trains that I was on always seemed very clean and very well kept and well maintained. The stations as well, very clean, very well maintained. It's something that I thought was really, really nice about the system and being able to ride it often. It was an experience that was actually quite enjoyable. They run two different kinds of rolling stock. One of them is the original trains that were on the metro when they started in 1995. Now, those trains were from Germany, and I never got a chance to ride one of those. I don't know exactly where they are operating those or if they're still operating those, but the ones that I rode were newer trains that were manufactured in Spain. And they're very modern, very sleek, very quiet and comfortable to ride, actually, also. One of the things that really impressed me about this system is it's all elevated, and the trains are all electric, as you can see here from the shot that I took in the station of the above ground electrical cables running with the trains. The ride is very comfortable, and it's actually quite quiet. It's not very noisy. Now, I mentioned in a previous video, in a lot of previous videos, but especially the previous video about Bogota's metro system, their bus rapid transit, that I am from Chicago, the city of Chicago. And Chicago has a very famous, or sometimes infamous, elevated train system as well. It is much, much older than Medellín, and it leaves a lot to be desired sometimes, not necessarily in like coverage, but in modernity. They run very old trains on relatively old tracks, and they're extremely, extremely loud. They're loud when you're riding on them. They're loud when they are going over on the tracks above your head when you're walking around the city. It's one of the, I would say, major problems of the system, but that's just because it's a very, very old system. Now, with this modern Medellín system, the trains are much more comfortable to ride, much quieter, and it's much more peaceful down below underneath the tracks when you're walking around the city. And if you look at this map here, you can see that there is extensive coverage of the entire city if you include the two metro lines, all of the cable car lines, and also the bus rapid transit lines. There are 3 of those. In addition to the bus rapid transit, there are also smaller like microbuses, like these ones that are outside the station in Sabaneta. Now, these sort of run routes from farther away from the metro stations to the metro stations. So if you're a little too far away to walk to the metro station, you can always take one of these little metro buses. And they don't just operate here outside of Sabaneta, but here, when we were filming at the Universidad metro station in like the heart of the city, there are all these different buses that run different lines, and you can see the different liveries on the different buses. These are all operated by different companies, but they're all subcontracted to the transit authority in Medellín. And they will shuttle from different parts of the city that are a little too far away from the metro lines to get to one of the main metro stations, either along the trunk line or along the line 2, the smaller spur line that runs off to the west. And as you can see from here at the Universidad station, there are a number of buses, and they run very, very often, which is something else that is really, really nice about this entire system. The trains and the buses run very, very often. Here in the Sabaneta station, if you see on the screen, you can see that they show you when the next train is coming, but they also show you when the next after that train is coming. And there's only a few minutes in between each train, so you really never have to wait that long at any of the stations for your train to show up, which makes this a really great option because, and I mentioned this in the Bogota public transit video, a public transit system is only really effective if it is a faster and better alternative to driving. At that point, people will stop taking their cars places because they don't want to have to deal with the hassle of traffic and parking at the other end. If the metro station gets you to within a few blocks walking distance of where you need to go on both ends, and it's a faster and more cost-effective option, then many, many people will use it. And as you can see from this station here, this is the Parque Berrio station. There are a lot of people, and this is a major, major central point in the city. So this station is very, very busy. Now, close to this station, there is the San Antonio station, which is the transfer station between the lines. And that station is even busier. Even though the stations may be busy and the trains may be frequented by a lot of passengers, I never felt like the trains were overloaded. There were times when I traveled at peak hours when the train was pretty full and I had to stand. I didn't get a seat, obviously. But there were other times where I would very easily get a seat, especially as we were further away from the center of the city. And I think one of the things about the metro that I really like is because they run a number of like a good number of trains on the system, it never feels overloaded. It feels like it is working perfectly at capacity. It feels like a very well managed system and a very well planned system in that respect. And to access the metro system, you use the Civica card, which you can see right here. It's a pretty standard card system. There are a few different kinds of cards, including like a resident, more permanent card where you can register an account online. The one that I have here is the Civica Eventual card, which is basically like a card that's designed more for people that use the system every so often. It's very good for tourists like me, who can just come and load a few, like a few thousand pesos onto the card and be able to use it. The fare, I think, is around 3,000 pesos, 2,000 to 3,000 pesos, which at the time I was there by the exchange rate is something around like 60 to 70 cents per ride. And this Civica Eventual card worked out really, really well for me. It was very, very easy. You can buy it right at the station and you can load it or load money onto it at the station, either at the ticket booth where you can buy the card or at these machines over here where you can like automatically add money. And it's a very, very easy system. Now, I also noted that there was bike rental. You can see some of the bikes here. This is by the Sabaneta station. And I never really saw a lot of people cycling. I don't know if this bike rental is also part of the Civica system and if you can use the Civica card to rent these bikes. Because, like I said, I never really saw people cycling. And I think one of the reasons is because whereas they have a very, very excellent and very modern and well-designed metro system here in Medellín, their bike lanes and their bike path system is not great. As you can see here, the bike lane is almost always in the sidewalk, just like this. It takes up space from the pedestrian area. I never really saw people using it. I really only ever noticed it because I would see people, walking, and I'd look down and see that there were these markings on the ground and then realize, oh, wait, this is a bike lane here. But like I said, I never really saw too many people cycling. I don't know if that's because the lanes in a lot of places like this are not really well defined and they're running through pedestrian space rather than taking up road space. But yeah, it's just something that I never really saw very much of when I was here in Medellín. I think one of the things that I liked the most about this system was also how well designed the stations are. The stations are really like massive. This station here at Parque Berrio is just, I mean, it's almost like an architectural wonder in itself. And I do know that they had to do lots of work engineering the ground underneath to make sure it supported all the weight of this massive metro station. This station here, the Universidad station, is very, very extensive and it has multiple entrances, all at different points along the track. You can enter at one end, entering at the other end. They have these bridges that cross the roads, so you're never really in conflict with street traffic. In fact, you could get off one of these buses, these feeder buses, like right next to one of the stairways that'll get you up to take the bridge across the road that you were just on with the bus in order to get into the station further down. The station here at Sabaneta has this raised passenger pedestrian walkway to get across the avenue here where all the buses pull in. So the buses pull in right next to the pedestrian stairway. You walk up the stairs, you go across the walkway, and you're in the station. It's very, very well designed, and especially for an above ground metro station, there's really not a lot of any kind of like pedestrian conflict that you would have with traffic, especially if you're taking one of these feeder buses to get to the station itself. And the stations themselves, just because of when they were designed, have this pretty cool brutalist style, which normally I'm not a big fan of brutalist architecture, but I don't know, I guess it's kind of growing on me, especially when I see stations like this one, this Parque Berrio station. I mean, it really is a cool looking station right here in the heart of Medellin. So I guess that's it. I really enjoyed traveling around on the Medellin system. It's a very impressive system. And one of the things that I really liked about it was you can actually get all the way out to the airport in Medellin, which is way out on the outside of the city, out on the like other side of a mountain. Now, the train doesn't take you directly there, but there is a shuttle bus that runs from the San Diego Centro Comercial, the San Diego Mall, which is right here next to the Exposiciones station along the metro line. So even though I was staying like way out on the outskirts of the city, I was able to take the metro when I was going to the airport to fly out of Medellin, take the metro up to Exposiciones, and just walk a couple of blocks to get to the bus pickup, and then take the shuttle bus out to the airport. What ended up costing me about $5 US to get all the way out to the airport. An Uber or a taxi would have cost me probably like $30 or maybe even more dollars to get there. So you can save a lot of money if you are along one of these metro stops, and if it's easy, you have easy access to get to the airport that way, and you want to save some money. But things like that, just the easy access and the smart connection points to other forms of transit, whether it be like the shuttle buses that get you to the metro line, whether it be the tram cars and the cable cars that take you up into the parts of the city that are up on the hills, or whether it be to the shuttle, the airport shuttle that takes you like through the tunnel in the mountain out to the airport on the other side of the mountain. It's all designed very smartly. It's very smart, intelligent, well-planned design. And like I said, very modern, very clean, very impressive. I was very impressed by the metro in Medellin. And I think the city of Medellin is very proud, and they rightly should be, of their metro system. It is a very classy metro system, and probably one of the best that I have ridden in any of the cities that I've visited so far on this trip, and I've ridden a lot. So I think that's going to be it for this video. I just wanted to highlight the metro system here in what is going to be one of our last videos from Medellin, because I rode it a lot and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very impressive, and it deserves its own video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something about the Medellin metro system, and hopefully if you're ever in Medellin, you get a chance to ride it like I did, because I think it's an enjoyable experience, and I think you should definitely do it. But that's going to be it for this video. Stay tuned. There's going to be a little bit more coming from here in Medellin, and we'll see you in the next one.